Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dawgs Central on a Tuesday. We are breaking down Missouri, Georgia versus Missouri. Graham, what in the world happened up in Columbia?
A lot of misery versus Missouri. Man, I think going back through it, like you come out and you turn the ball over twice in the first 20 minutes. And, I thought Stetson actually came out with some sharp throws and they got dropped. And then, I don't know, I think as a quarterback, you start getting your head and aiming the ball a little bit. And that created some struggles for him, I think, in the late first and second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot spot a home team, a home underdog in the game on the road in the SEC, a couple turnovers and a couple busted plays. Like the belief quotient jumped up considerably, and I think Georgia took a little while to match that intensity.
Yeah, 100%. No matter how bad a team is, in college football, momentum and environment can add points to a game. It's just such a weird thing, right? We see it every year. It's been a while, I feel like since we've seen it with Georgia under Kirby Smart. But these things do happen, and I agree. I think one of the big issues as well, which we'll talk about as we break down the film, is I think Missouri was sending some interesting pressure packages that there were just things that putting some pressure on Stetson to put guys in the right spot for pass protection. And when you got guys running free and you're a little tight because of the environment and the momentum's all against you, things happen like they happened on Saturday night. Josh, what were your takeaways before we dive into the film?
All right. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I can't lie. I had this, first off, I'm still basking in the national championships, not gonna lie. And it was like kind of fun to be in a dogfight again. And that sounds crazy. My wife didn't know what alien came into my body and took over, because that's not the game I take really well for the 22 years we've been married before this. In fact, I almost destroyed what do you call it? An engagement party on the one particular Georgia South Carolina weekend. So I mean, it was awesome. I mean, and I just love. I mean, they battled through it. They didn't have their A game, and they scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to come back 10 points down on the road in a night game in the SEC. As crazy as that sounded, I had a blast.
Well, I guarantee you, both you and Kirby Smart had fun on Saturday night, and that's probably the only people in the proximity of the Georgia program that had fun were you and Kirby Smart, because I'm sure he loved it for the reasons you mentioned too.
I think, though, that you do bring up a good point, Josh, in that, like, a big separator in college football, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. The elite teams win their clunkers, so to speak, like those games where everything's going kind of wrong and it starts out poorly and it's just everything feels like it's a sludge and a trudge. Like, they find a way to win those. And Georgia, they didn't do that in 2019 against South Carolina, and they did do that on Saturday against Missouri. And I think that's a large difference, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a good. The 2019 game is sort of the kind of the watermark for the Kirby era. You know what I mean? In terms of what he didn't win. I mean, you saw the stat on the game. That was the first deficit of double-digit deficit Georgia's overcome since the Rose Bowl. So yeah, they've played a lot of blowouts, and I mean, this team has got experience, but the leadership experience is still kind of new, and I still think they're finding their way there. And we saw some of that on the sidelines, and maybe we're not seeing it in some other places on the field, but I think they're gonna grow together as a team, and a team that comes out with a lot of youth and has to replace a lot, and that's a good coaching staff. And yeah, we got this win. I don't know if we're gonna win all the games this year, but you don't get to win them all. The Georgia team's going to lose a game at some point, and so let's enjoy the comeback wins when they come, because they're huge.
The only time, so Nick Saban, greatest football coach of all time, at Alabama, he's had one year where he went 12-0 back to back in the regular season. He's won a lot of national championships, but 2008 and 2009 were the only years that he went back to back 12-0 in the regular season. He's had quite a few 12-0 seasons, but none back to back. That's how difficult it is, right? Georgia went 12-0 in the regular season last year. It's just difficult. It's just hard to do it, and you saw some of that on Saturday night. What I will say, and this is a little bit of coach speak, but this is where you find out who your leaders are. It's where you find out who are the guys. You saw it with Jamon Dumas Johnson on the sideline getting into one of the DB's ears, right? Like you find out who are the guys that are willing to step up, be vocal, lean in when you have to go, pull a victory out of the jaws of defeat. Who are your guys that can make it happen? So I'm with you, Josh, in terms of, I think there's a lot of good things that came out of it. I didn't have as much fun watching it as you did. But let's dive into the film and we can talk about why it wasn't as fun now. So
Graham starts us off with some good plays. So here's clip 20.
Well, yeah. So this is good pass plays, right? Because like there's been a lot of talk about what Stetson did and didn't do in this game. Like I mentioned earlier, I think coming out early and having a couple drops was bad. Like I think it just threw everything off. But like this is kind of the first positive pass play. Like you had two drops, one by Rosemy, one by Ladd on these deep slant routes that would have been first downs. And by the time you get your first good completion, you're down. You're down in this game, right? But like this clip 35 right here, like this is a big boy throw from Stetson. Okay, like your offensive line has been shaky so far. You got number 8 bearing down on you right there, and you stand in the pocket and hang in.
Sorry, they cut to the other play live after that, so they didn't extend that replay. I'm going to start it from the top.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the biggest thing that I saw as a struggle for Georgia on Saturday night in the pass game was that Georgia's receivers were not getting open against man coverage.
Yep.
And that's a problem if that continues forward. The success rate, like Bill Connolly put out a kind of like a big advanced box score type deal for this game. And, you look at where it all kind of, I don't know, broke down for Georgia. Like the passing. Okay. So against man coverage, Georgia had 15 passes with a 26.7% completion rate for 78 yards. Now, they were 19.5 yards per completion on those 15 passes. But, I thought I love Rosemy. He's a great player, but he was targeted 8 times in this game and only had 3 receptions. And a lot of those targets came against man coverage. And I think Stetson is used to having these boundary receivers that if you play man on them, they're going to win. But like that throw right there, rolling left over,
God, that was
over a linebacker between a safety. Yeah. Like that's a high level football play.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were quite a few of those, right? There were quite a few plays in this game that it's never as bad as it seems, and it's generally never as good as it seems. And I feel like that described this game very well.
Yeah. And, I thought like you're going to see this next play here. You got Arian at the bottom. He only played 5 snaps in this game, but like the twitchiness that he has right here, that's a little bit different than what you're getting with him and AD Mitchell out. That with him and AD Mitchell out, you just don't have guys that are creating that much space. That's a good play from Ladd getting over there, but I thought, that's a deep out on 3rd and 7. That's not really an easy throw. You got to wait and let that develop. And
I mean, the offense has not had to have we got to make this play very often, and it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, you want to execute on third down, but when you're down 16-6 and it's 3rd and 7, you got to move the stick. That's incredible resilience too. I mean, that's just a good play on a good down, and it wasn't just for nothing. They had to have that play. They had to have all these plays, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this play right here, so all of a sudden in the third quarter, it was like Monken decided to start doing what he had done against Oregon and South Carolina, which was let your very, very good downfield blockers downfield block and put the ball in your athlete's hands on the edge. And, look how easy these yards come for Georgia. Like this, all of a sudden there's space when it feels like there hasn't been space all night. And this is also an extension of of your running game. And we're going to get into all that, but your running game struggled mightily in the first half. I think Todd Monken is the best offensive coordinator that Georgia's ever had, but this game was not, I feel like, his best night. Like I thought that he could have done some things to sort of like release the pressure and pick up easy yards earlier than he did. I mean, Darnell obviously still a mutant.
Yeah, I would never, try to make assumptions for why coaches have certain game plans. But the first half, especially, the play calling definitely felt like we have better players than you. And so it's going to be very vanilla, and we're just going to, run a very simple route tree, do some very simple pass protections, and we're going to beat you. Like that's kind of how it felt. And Missouri, credit to them, we're like, no, you're not. It definitely felt like not that I don't think any coach at this level, phones it in, but it definitely felt like a very simple game plan that might have been predicated on we just have better athletes than you.
Yeah, I mean, like that throw right there is, 5 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah.
You're waiting for your guy to clear. Like you're throwing that ball past about 3 different defenders on 117 here. Yeah, I mean, this is a high-level quarterback.
Yeah, Dom Blaylock, 3 receptions on 3 targets. Showed some strong hands. I mean, these are the guys you want in these moments.
Right. Yeah, and I thought, he only ran 9 routes and had 3 catches on 3 targets. I feel like maybe, the separation thing that we're talking about, he looks healthy. Like he looks a lot like his 2019 self right now. And that's a dude that can create some space in tight quarters. So I think maybe we'll see some more of him. But let's get into the bad pass plays. Unless you got something else to say, Josh.
Nah, ready for the pain.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here you're going to come right out. First play of the game. Oh, yeah. All right, so first play of the game, you're going to, shift out, spread everybody. And this is tight coverage, but like this is a good throw from Bennett into tight coverage. That should be a catch. And it's not. And now all of a sudden you're in 2nd and 10, and you get a running play blown up. And now all of a sudden you're in 3rd and 14, and Warren Mclendon is going to get beat pretty bad at right tackle. Broderick Jones is not going to have a great time either. I thought for as many times as Georgia was in obvious passing downs on Saturday night that they actually converted a lot of 3rd and longs through the air. But, it's just this is like the least ideal way you can start a game, really. Because it just makes everybody start questioning things. And then you got, 3rd and 7, second drive. And now you're punting out of your own end zone.
Yeah, you can't drop it. One stat going back to that that Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint play that you showed a couple clips ago. PFF showed he had 4 contested targets.
Yeah, I saw that.
0 of those were receptions. You can't go 0 for 4 on contested catches at this level, being a starting wide receiver. So that and Ladd, with a drop. I think early on there were things that, besides what was happening with pressure, besides what was happening up front, there were 4 or 5 plays there that you just got to make as a receiver. Personally, I think.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree. I mean, like that right there is just an overthrow on 33.
Yeah, right.
Like, I mean, it's not McIntosh as open on wheel routes as he normally is, but that's a play that is makeable. Granted, you'd rather him overthrow it than throw a pick. Yeah, but I mean, like right here on this clip, you're going to see this is not a good throw from Stetson, but like look across the field and tell me where this ball is supposed to go. Nobody downfield is open with separation. This play is a freaking disaster right here. This is the weird like screen thing, but this is what happens when your offensive line's not blocking. Like, when your offensive line can't block 6 guys coming at you, even that should have been a touchdown. Like that was the play I thought that was maybe the most egregious of all. But I guess the thing I'm driving at is like Bennett's receivers and pass protection really didn't do him any favors. This is the right play.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like Roseme, this is one of those. Oh, never mind.
50?
Yes. Yeah, like this is one of those situations where Bennett throws this ball expecting his ex receiver against man coverage to create separation on a comeback route, and he doesn't. And now maybe he should have gone somewhere else with it, but it's like that's a timing route. If you're going to throw it, you got to throw it.
And that's one of those contested ones that he didn't bring in.
Yeah,
right.
This one's just a bad throw right here.
Yeah. And then this is the play over the middle to Bowers that I don't know, honestly, if to tell from this angle how, like it seems like Brock is never really looking for the ball.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great throw either way, but Bowers.
You got space right there. I mean, that's,
that's catchable.
Yeah. Well, it's thrown behind him. Like if you put it in the right spot, that should be a completion for sure. But it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if Stetson was expecting Bowers to turn to the outside or the inside, right?
And this I don't understand why. Like, why are you rolling him left into the defensive end when you haven't pass protected all night? I thought this was a dumb call on 1st and 10 with 17 seconds to go in the half, especially if you're trying to manage the clock. You don't need to roll your pocket out. I mean, you can let him sit back there and your receivers are going to clear 14 yards. That play right there, he should have not tried to, like, he should have seen the rush coming and aborted this play action. But this was one where if he hits Darnell, that's a touchdown. But he's also getting slammed in the head. And McIntosh has to step into that.
Yeah. They mentioned on the broadcast, Josh, on that last clip, they mentioned, that should be a hot route, right? On 91 where you just mentioned it, Graham. Like you got to abandon the fake there and just come up, especially when you got a guy that's 6'7" and 280 pounds. It's like, forget that little play action. Just throw it over to him.
Yeah, here Bell is supposed to sit down and doesn't. I mean, that's one of the challenges of having some of these young receivers. Like Bell is talented, and I think he is.
He just sits
better at getting
right there,
on the outside.
Yeah, you're supposed to stop right there, right? So if you look and you see, based on the coverage, you got that guy in the middle of the field, that safety. You gotta stop, and then the idea is that if you stop there, then you can work your way back to the outside, but you don't want to be going inside. You see the 3 receivers, see Ladd in the middle. It's like you just got to sit down.
And then right here, this play, if Mclendon protects, is 6. Like Bowers is 3 yards clear of the defensive back. And there's just not time to get it off. That's one I don't put on Bennett.
Yeah.
And then, this is a good pass play. This is a Brock screen. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't understand why when you can do that and get 10 and 12 yards every time and your offensive line is struggling. A really good way to basically like make a blitzing. There's 2 ways you can really like make a team that's blitzing 7 guys and 6 guys over and over like Missouri was pay with your passing game. One is quick slants and, quick crossing routes behind it. That wasn't working. Like the guys were not getting enough separation on those short plays to make that happen. The other is let's go outside or let's go behind this with tunnel screens and stuff. And, if these guys are going to leave the middle of the field wide open, we're going to go plow on the edge. Our guy might have a chance to cut back inside in this space where those linebackers aren't. Like, there's a lot that can happen. And they finally did that in the third quarter. But it just, if you're Georgia and Missouri is blitzing you over and over, and you can't do anything to make them pay for it, then they're going to keep doing it. And, I thought it was just slow to adjust to what was happening in this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was, Warren Mclendon was one of those guys where just had a very uncharacteristically bad game. I mean, he allowed 2 pressures, a hurry, and a hit, which is, that's 4 times that they're coming off of that side. 4 different plays on disrupting Stetson, so that's tough.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like this is first run play of the game, and we talked. So we just did a deal with George Foster talking about zone versus gap, and that's one of these zone plays right here. His opinion is that Georgia should be a gap team that occasionally sprinkles a zone run in. Right now, they've called basically 50-50 on the season, 71-67 zone calls versus gap calls in the run game. But you're going to see this whole list of bad run plays that we're about to go through in the first half. Almost all of these are going to be zone blocking schemes. And, it was interesting talking to him about this because he played in some really good zone schemes in the NFL. And George was explaining how like the zone blocking scheme, like all 5 guys have to be doing everything right. It's a dance. They all have to move together. Like there's a synchronicity that has to happen. And it's hard for a college offensive line to get enough practice time and reps to create that. But it's especially hard when Georgia's rotating on the offensive line every other series, right? So I don't know. It's something to think about. But, yeah, with the zone here, like, it just didn't work for them.
Yeah, and I talked a lot about the successful runs, and this is one of those runs that Georgia has been converting on a large percentage of the time, and they didn't get it there. And that was one of those things I was like, egads, 3rd and 3, you should be able to – Georgia's been pretty dependent on those runs, especially with Kenny Mack with the ball in his hands, and just, didn't – that right edge or that left edge didn't give him the spot.
Well, Tate Ratledge is getting blown up off the right side too, and that's ruining everything as well. Like this is a gap scheme play right here. Like you're trying to get these guys coming out on the edge, and it's a miss by Broderick. So it's not to say that Georgia runs gap scheme perfect every time. I want to be clear on that, but. Yeah, I mean, right here this is the fumble. Yep. So that's another
just a late read, I guess. On
this is one where right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably on Stetson. So you're going to see a zone play. Nobody gets pushed off the line. And I'm just going to say it, like, Milton, I think he has struggled some with his reads in zone in particular. I think he's been very good in the gap scheme stuff, but he doesn't see the play super well all the time in zone because he's got to read all 5 linemen. He's got to do it quick. But there's a lot of space off the left side here that you can cut back into, and maybe I'm not saying he's running for 60, but he's running for 5 or 7.
Yeah. Well, becoming a cutback runner. Nick Chubb, they were talking about that. Nick Chubb, the Browns played the Falcons this weekend, and they were talking about that on the broadcast about Nick Chubb's vision and his ability to cut back and take those kind of big open spaces. It's a difficult thing, and sometimes I'm not the type of person that you have it or you don't, but sometimes you see enough sample size and it's like, is that vision really there to actually? It's a feel thing, right? And you got to be able to feel it out, and you got to do it enough times that you can feel it out instinctively. And doesn't feel like that's happening very much.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is another, just like, your guys are trying to block into the second level and they're absolutely whiffing at what they're doing. Here, you're going to have a 3rd and 1 where you go zone down on the goal line. I don't agree with motioning Ladd back into the formation there. It just brings another body to the box. But yeah, all of a sudden you've gone from 3rd and 1 to 4th and 2. That's not good. And then this is kind of like a little split zone kind of action here. But this is the first play of that final drive, and it gets destroyed.
Yeah. That one was tough because you're putting your helmet right in the back of your offense.
Josh, stop here.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know why that play is there. Oh,
yeah.
Where are we?
Because we're gonna go back to.
Oh, I see. We've got it twice. Now. Copy that.
Yeah.
Wait. Stop.
Sorry.
Omaha.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the thing that I really wanted to illustrate there is that, like, a lot of those, the vast majority of those bad run plays were zone calls. And that wasn't – it was more, like, obvious and egregious on Saturday night against Mizzou than it's been in other games, but I didn't feel like it was anything new. Like, they've been struggling to block zone all year. Like, we haven't really seen Georgia have more than a couple good, 12-plus yard runs on zone blocking schemes. And that's just another situation where it's like, we know that Georgia brought Monken and Cyril's together because they're both supposedly, like, pull-heavy gap scheme kind of guys. So why are we sitting here slamming our heads against the wall over and over and over, trying to run zone when that's not even really your philosophy to begin with? It just doesn't make sense. And last year, you go back and look, Georgia was about a 50-50 zone and gap team, which is odd. Like, that is rare. Normally, somebody's one or the other. But last year, you had backs, especially in Cook and Zeus, who, like, they could read, like, they would find the smallest crease in the offensive line and they would bust into the second level. And, A, those creases are not there as much so far this year, but B, it's just like, I don't know that's the right game for the personnel you have right now. I don't think these guys are as good at reading holes as what Georgia's maybe had in past years at running back. And that's, an experience. It's a lot of different things. And it's also like, you aren't really confident in those holes being there every time if your offensive line's getting blown up over and over and over. And then, it just creates more indecisiveness.
Yeah. Well, you've also got guys. I mean, Kendall Milton hasn't played that much. And I
Right.
mean, he's been in the program for a while, right? But he's the last couple of years he's been banged up. Obviously, being in a program where you're in a backfield that's behind Zamir White, James Cook, and Kenny McIntosh. I mean, just reps. Like you're at a space where I think there's both I mean, I'll say this and I don't mean it derogatorily, but there's both a talent deficit. I mean, they're just not as good as the guys that you've had back there in the past, and experience, and some of those go hand in hand. But I think that's one thing that I think Georgia fans have to keep in mind when you're watching these guys run is that Georgia is RBU. Georgia has a long history of very skilled running backs, but Dajon Edwards, Kendall Milton, I mean, they just haven't played that much, and I would love to see Dajon get some more touches. I would love to see some other Kendall figure out this cutback piece and the vision, but it comes from playing, and you gotta go out there and play, and we'll see how much they can develop. The good news is you don't have to be really good at that in week 5 against Missouri. But you are going to have to be really good at that, in November and December, against Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, probably Alabama in the SEC championship. Like those games, that's where that cutback makes the difference in you winning the game in some cases, or you losing. So
that's 100% right.
Yeah, I was looking at the splits, and I think it's back-to-back weeks, right around 5 yards a carry, and their 2 lowest success rates. Still pretty good at over 50% rush success rates. So it's back-to-back weeks where we were, before that, we were 61 against, I'm sorry, it was 61% success rate. Actually, I'm sorry, I was looking at the Samford game. Yeah. The 2 out of 3 weeks were, right around 5 yards a carry against teams that we felt like we should have blown out, and just not looking that great on the run game. And like you said, Georgia's prides themselves on RBU, and it's very probably middle of the pack in terms of yardage and everything. The efficiency is still there, but people want to see chunk plays, whether it's passing or running the ball, and we haven't really gotten a lot of those chunk plays of late. So I haven't calculated the Monk and explosives for including Missouri game, but we're in between. We're still like 12.5%, whereas last year we were running 14.5% explosives plays. So and for whatever it is, but we're gonna get us some good runs, right?
We are, and we'll go through unless mentioned otherwise. All of these are going to be gap scheme plays, and the biggest way you can tell that is going to be.
Where's 7?
You're going to see guys pulling. Yeah, we're going for 7, Josh.
Hang on a second. Let me find it real fast. I'm going to close this out real fast. Hang on.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. What's going on here?
All right. So some of the plays we're going to watch, right, are actually there were a good amount of good run plays. There were a good amount. The success rate was very good, especially in that fourth quarter when you had to run the ball in the late third and fourth quarter. You were able to run the ball, and that's a big thing for Georgia to build on. And I think if you look, it was 41% of rushes were 5+ yards.
I mean, I like at the end of the day, I mean that in the fourth quarter, Georgia ran the ball 15 times for 106 yards. That's plenty efficient. I mean, Dajon had, I believe, 6 carries for 46 yards on the last drive. Like the thing that I did find myself very kind of warm and fuzzy or positive about in this game was going back and looking. I got to pull up my 12 takeaways here real quick, but when you talked about right guard and left guard, which is something we had stressed all year, like how that had been kind of a problem. Georgia had 5 carries for 60 yards when going off right guard and 3 carries for 34 yards going off left guard. So you combine, that's 8 carries, 94 yards running in your A gaps pretty much. That's like some old school up the gut type Georgia football that we haven't really seen in a few years, honestly. Like,
true.
I mean, as much as like we kind of talk in this colorful, positive way about like some of the offensive lines under Pittman and earlier in the Kirby era, like set aside 2017, these offensive lines haven't like Georgia's been efficient enough in the run game, but like they haven't ever really been blowing people off the ball or been great running the ball up the middle. So that felt kind of different, honestly.
Yeah. It harkened back to you're just missing a fullback, and then you had Mike Bobo offense, like throw a fullback back there, and you're gonna run the damn ball, right? I mean, that's
a little screen to JT Wall, and we were cooking.
Yeah. The formations were different, but it definitely had that old school run the damn ball feel to it. There in the fourth quarter, especially Georgia, 177 non-sack rush yards, 5.2 a carry, which is not bad.
Well, Graham, I apologize. I don't have these handful of good run plays. I've got the defense, everything lined up. I do have the death march. If you want to talk about the Dejan death march, I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine. We can at least look at those. Do you have the plays that we were looking at with George?
I did. I was trying to. They're out. I've got play 7, but that's
throw 7 up there.
Okay,
if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is early. Like this is that fumble to start the game. So it's a bad play, but it's a good play. But this is actually a zone concept right here that Georgia blocks well. I mean, like you're going to see these guys moving kind of down the line of scrimmage here, and Tate does a nice job taking this guy out of the play. Yeah, like this is textbook shit. So I think if there's one sort of like if we're talking, let's give Todd Monken the benefit of the doubt. If I was sitting up in the booth in the first zone run I called pop like this, I probably would have kept calling him too.
Yeah. I mean, that's 3 minutes in first possession.
Yeah. And then they never did it again.
I think I got 76 in here too somewhere. 106.
Yeah,
there's 76 here. Jump to 76.
Totally, yeah. So this is that first drive of the second half, and Georgia starts going gap scheme, and this is like
that was a good run by Kendall.
It was a really good run by Kendall. He hugs the wall here.
Yeah.
Tate comes through, blows his guy up. Mclendon as well. Like, these guys just look so much more comfortable on these pulls. There another one right here from Dejan. In talking to George earlier, it's like he was just kind of like, this is what your personnel is built for. Like, these are big guys, He referred to it as these guys can move some furniture, like they can get up and push some guys around. So I think the question is, will we see more of this moving forward? But you can keep playing this, Josh. I'm sorry.
Well, I got to get back to the Dejan death march, so give me a second here.
Yeah, it's 125.
Oh, okay. I did. Whoa, miracles never cease.
You were right there.
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, like, kind of looking at this last drive. So, I mean, this was beautiful getting these guys out on the edge, but they just looked a lot more comfortable out there in open space. Like this is some really nice, everyone working as a unit.
This is where everybody's looking. I mean, I've heard Dejan Edwards all week on a lot of podcasts and in a lot of tweets. And I love Dejan, but Georgia runs a lot of running backs, and I think Kendall Milton's going to get it going. Kenny Mack's going to get it going. Dejan's going to be right there. We're going to see these guys. I don't think Monken or anybody's lost faith in any of the other guys.
Yeah, back up to 127 there, Josh. So this is going to be kind of like a little, like this is basically if you hear people talk about like split zone, this is a split zone play right here with Bowers coming back across the formation. But like, I guess what I'm saying is it's all is not lost in the world of zone, but it seemed like Georgia's zone blocking schemes started working again after, like, the thing about running those gap schemes was those guys that were blitzing upfield, you were basically just using their momentum against them and letting them take themselves out of the play and then seal them off. And once you did that, it just kind of it changes the psychology of everything, and those guys aren't just pinning their ears back and shooting free over and over anymore. And I thought that was, kind of an important distinction. But like that run right there from Edwards is not really well blocked. That's just like him making 4 yards sort of happen. And I think that's why you're hearing all the – I mean, I agree. Like, Georgia's got 3 good running backs. I don't think it's time to put anybody on the shelf. But I do think sometimes you see Edwards make decisions a little bit quicker and just go with them. You know what I mean?
Again, it's just, I think so much of that is just instinctual. And I hate to put it that way, but I do think at some point you get to a point in your career as a running back and you have that feel for it. And I think Dejan obviously has that feel for it. It's hard. It's hard to do. Not many guys can just wake up and you have a play and it's supposed to go a certain way. And like you saw it with Kendall Milton on that good run that I pointed out, like where he took that half beat kind of hesitation to let the guard, get in the gap and get out in front of him. And that doesn't happen consistently enough. Whereas Dejan, it's not the same. There's not the same speed. It feels like Kendall a lot of times is just hitting it at the same speed, at the same cadence, at the same rhythm. Right. And you got to be able to mix it up. You got to be able to take that half beat, bounce it outside, all of those things have to happen. And that feels very instinctive. Sorry, I can't talk this afternoon.
No, you're good. But yeah, you're right. Dejan just kind of looks like a dude that's like playing, backyard football where 11 guys are chasing one. And he's just not going to let you touch him. And there's not a ton of thought happening.
Yeah. And again, I don't mean this derogatorily toward any of the running backs, but you can tell when a runner is running tight versus running loose. And Dejan just runs loose, man. He's just very free flowing with it, kind of like DeAndre Swift.
All right, let's just jump into the defense here. And
okay. All right, bad defensive plays. Honestly, I didn't think the defensive performance was that bad. This is Tyke Smith giving up some inside leverage. That pass play's too easy. It didn't help that Missouri started basically at the 50, their first 3 drives of the game. This, I feel like, that should be an interception. It's just, I know it's a weird play. Chris Smith has earned the benefit of the doubt, but still should be an interception.
For an upset, that's how you draw it up. Home crowd, out of the gates, and you won the explosive battle. You did everything, and you won the field position battle, and and Georgia still won. Those are two or three of the most important factors in the Bill Connolly 5 factors thing. And we survived. Yeah. I mean, that said, the success rate battle was dominated, 48 to 29 or something like that. But their big plays really counted.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
Not enough.
This is one of those where, I don't know, there seems to be a little confusion over who's supposed to be in that zone. It seemed like the Georgia's bad plays in this game came in little clusters, one after another. This is the very next play here. That was a missed throw, but 7 was wide open. Dominic Lovett, who was their best receiver, the SEC's leading receiver coming into this game. It's a dude you might want to know where he is most of the time.
That's
really,
a really bad throw.
Yeah, it's bad throw, but it's bad coverage too. Clip 29 here. I think, is this our first run fit miss of the day?
No, this is the scramble play, I think.
Yes, you're right. This is the scramble play. Yeah, and this is the one that Dumas Johnson was yelling at Lassiter on the sidelines about after the drive, because he comes up and bites when, he shouldn't have been. But also, if Nolan Smith makes the sack, he doesn't have to bite. So, missed tackles will kill you. This is poor tackling, in my opinion.
And almost a really bad late hit tackle.
Yeah. And then you get a bust on the touchdown. I don't know who this was on. It was on one of the Smiths, I think. Like, it's either Tyke or Christopher.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, it was kind of smart of Mizzou thinking, like, oh, these guys have been drilled on screens all week. Let's show them a screen, and they bid on it.
Yeah.
But, like, that was Mizzou's only real, like, productive moment in the red zone in this game, and it was a bust. And then
here's your run fit.
Yeah, this is the one that, talking about good zone blocking, Missouri on these stretch plays, you're going to see right here. This is like textbook zone run blocking right here. All these guys moving in unison down the line. And Dumas Johnson's going to fill in the wrong hole. Logue cannot let that happen. And there's a bunch of other people that should have been there too to make the play, but like those two guys in particular are in the, in position. I thought Logue had a pretty rough game, honestly. He looked a little slow out there at times. And this is Ringo getting mossed down the field. I think, Kirby talked about this in the press conference, but like, he's got to get his head up because a lot of these plays could be interceptions if he does. And he's such an athlete that no one is going to burn him downfield, but he tends to play the man instead of the ball and kind of panics. And, right here, he had just had that holding penalty on a 3rd and 17 to give Missouri a first down. And then you get a miss in the run game. Like, I just thought Missouri basically manufactured 6 points in this in that third quarter to keep the game at a 10-point game by just targeting him down the field and kind of like letting him sort of make his own mistakes almost. And then that's a bad run fit. That's another one of these stretch plays. I liked the intensity that Dumas Johnson brought. Mondon gets busted out of that play too. It's not just on JDJ. Pause it right here if you can, Josh. I just thought that the intensity was good, but he also had 4 missed tackles in this game. And some of those came in moments where you could have gotten off the field. Now, we're going to look at these good defensive plays. But I don't know, did you have any thoughts, either of you guys, on sort of kind of what went wrong for the defense, or if you're concerned moving forward?
I'm personally not concerned other than, you got some young guys up front. You got some, you saw JDJ having a polite discussion with Lassiter on the sideline. You've got some guys that are still trying to learn to play together. And there are times when you have assignments that you just miss. And Missouri, their average drive distance was 26 yards. They had a few plays, right? And Josh did a good job of breaking this down on Dawgs Central in terms of their actual successful plays, especially in the second half. There weren't very many of them. Yeah, there were five total. And yeah,
I actually have a broader picture, and we talked about in our
Mhm.
season preview about what this defense was going to be, and it
Yeah.
came out of the gate just elite, just like, oh yeah, we reload, we don't rebuild.
Mhm.
And I said there's going to be some regression. We're not going to allow 3.8 yards per play defensively. We're going to be up in the 4.5, which is we're actually maybe crept over that. We're still in a good success rate allowed at 40 or 39%. So those numbers are really, really good. Sometimes you got to score more than 20 points a game to win. And we said this offense should be the elite. This offense will definitely take care of this defense while it gets its legs under it. And that's what you saw. You saw a night game. I keep saying this, night game on the road, and things didn't. They made some mistakes, and Missouri made them pay. But thankfully, between the hustle play for Starks and stepping up in the red zone and holding them to field goals, and after that first quarter, things really just kind of like they righted the ship. They'd still had a couple big plays, but after they had two plays in the second quarter, like midway through the second quarter, they had two plays that went into Georgia's side of the field. But after that, they didn't have any successful plays once they got in there. So their kicker, that kicker's not going to make multiple 50-yard kicks in a college game. So
dude, that was a whole other.
It was wild.
So
that dude was stroking from 56.
And
I thought for half of that game that they were going to hit like a 72-yard field goal to win at the buzzer.
So let me just finish up, because I don't big picture. If this is the defense and this is the production we're getting out of our defense in Florida and after, I'm a little concerned, but I still think this defense is growing before our eyes and it's going to get better. So yes, back to the fat kicker.
I mean, he missed a 20-something yard field goal to beat Auburn last week.
I think they said that about 10 times, but
and the guy was. I mean, I'm still saying it because I still can't believe it that he went from 1 week, literally, like if he was in the NFL, he would have been cut last week, and then would have been a Pro Bowler like this week. Like it was
freaking Adam Vinatieri, dude.
Yeah, it was that dramatic. It was just wild. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time, where it's just that dramatic of a difference between game to game.
I mean, I think for me with the defense, like my thought, I worry about Ringo down the road. Like I think like he's got to show some stuff on tape that like you can't just throw it up and he's not going to turn around and find the ball, or he's not going to commit a penalty every other target. Because if he doesn't, Tennessee is going to hunt his ass over and over and over, and it's going to be bad.
Maybe hold off on printing the Ringo Island shirts for a little bit.
He's got all the physical gifts that you could ask for. I mean, like he's going to stay step for step with anybody. But I mean, there was a couple plays in this game where I thought, like, dude, if he just turns around and goes like this, it's an interception, because he's always in great position because he's so athletic. So you want to see that change. But the run fits, I don't really worry about, because that kind of stretch zone play that Missouri runs is pretty unique on the college level.
Yeah.
B, you didn't have Jalen Carter. Like, I don't know if those runs pop if you have Jalen Carter in the game.
Yeah.
And C, I don't know, man. I've seen Kirby coach run defenses for too long to think that they're not going to figure it out.
Yeah, everything that you saw is fixable and coachable, right? There weren't situations where there are times where you look at it and you say, this guy just isn't good. I mean, you just don't have the talent. You just don't have, it's not clicking. Georgia was in position to make plays when they didn't make them all night long, and that stuff.
Right.
And they made a lot of plays too.
They did. Oh, the defense was fantastic. Yeah.
Let's look at them.
Yeah.
Moving right along. Sorry, John.
All right.
I like it.
Smile Munden. Come in here. Great read on the end around crash. He's such a freak athlete, dude. It's so much fun to watch him play. Hear him and Dumas Johnson come up the middle. You might want to see him make that sack, but on 3rd and 9, you get the quarterback off his spot, force him to your help. Michael Williams good job getting in there. Had a chance to make that play as well. I thought Lassiter actually played a really nice game in run support. Right here, you got pressure everywhere. You got Tyke getting in the backfield. You got Lassiter as well. Like, I like the way that he hits for a defensive back, especially for a cornerback.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And then, Tramel Walther, great play by him. This is going to be a screen right here. I thought good pursuit by Georgia on this. After those issues, you see them turn that play back inside like we had talked about. And then we highlighted these plays in our preview as well. Good job, Ray, on the edge, hunting this down against Missouri's best wide receiver. That's a really, really nice play by Johnson or Dumas Johnson and Tyke Smith. And then, this is 3 downs in a row right here coming up here on clip 19. You're going to see a really nice open field tackle by Tyke. I thought Tyke played well.
I did too.
Yeah, it sounds like Bullard's back this week, so I don't know what that means for him, but I think he is going to contribute to this defense in some significant moments moving forward. Good run defense. I'm sorry,
playing against. Yeah, I was just saying again. I keep saying it. Like playing with your back up against the wall, and when you've got to pick up the defense. I mean, you got to protect the offense. Is good stuff. I mean, I sound like I'm just just Mr. Homer, but we got the win, and this defense is still going to grow up. I kind of love it. I mean, they've made a hell of a lot of plays, man.
No, and I think this is one of the you gotta. Well, we'll talk about this in a second, but Stackhouse. This was a play where I was like, okay, Jalen Carter just goes out of the game, and Stackhouse is going to come in here and be like, hey, it's fine. I'll blow some stuff up too. I thought he played a really good game. That's a nice job by Ringo coming up, playing that reverse as well. But number 90 and number 78, Stackhouse and Walther, and Brinson as well, 97, continue to impress me up front. And then really nice blitz by Tresman Marshall on a 3rd and goal situation to get Georgia off the field right there. Coming 15.
One of the bigger plays. That whole series is one of the biggest ones, possibly the season. If Georgia gives up a touchdown there, who knows what happens?
Right, exactly. Dumas Johnson, I thought he had a nice night in coverage. They tried to pick on him at times and were not successful.
This is 69, right? I just got to say, I was watching this with my son, and I was like, watch number 10, watch 10. They're going to pick on him right here. And it was like, I call this. I get 1 a game, and my son thinks I'm a genius.
Hey man, you're the host of a moderately
podcast seen by
YouTube.
This doesn't just happen, John.
This is, dude, you've gotten the mental reps in, so now you're making plays in the game. Here comes Brinson, 97, big play by him right here at defensive tackle, swimming off, getting up. You gotta love it. He's super athletic and fun to watch. Nolan Smith here off the edge does a really nice job of not biting too hard on that fake.
It's so good. Oh,
yeah,
I love it. I'm happy now. I'm so happy still watching these awesome plays. I just love it.
And then you got Brinson here again, getting into the backfield. Wait, no. What clip is this? Oh,
that was 97. You've got it labeled as Brinson, but it was just a good play by the secondary.
No, I think he run.
Oh, weird.
We just skipped clip 97. That's all right.
Oh,
this is
sorry. There's 81 clips. My bad.
Okay. But this was a nice play by Starks.
Yeah, that one felt like it could have been picked. He knew it too.
It did. I was almost glad he didn't because I don't know that you want Georgia on the 1.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true, but
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
It was almost like he tripped at the end.
Yeah, if he comes up clean, it's not at the 1, dude. It's at the 40.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is good coverage. This is kind of, I mean, Georgia's finally got a lead here. Missouri tries to throw their way down. And then you get this third down right here. And Tyke, that was the moment of the game. Bannister's like a 9th-year senior for them. Slot receiver. He's long. He made some sticky grabs. He's got good hands. And Tyke played him really well without committing pass interference. Never panicked. Yeah, the last thing I'll say before we wrap this up is just, you're right, Josh. Like, this is a young defense, and it's a young team, and the guys that were the leaders last year are gone. And there was kind of that moment on Saturday night where everyone was like, all right, who do we kind of look at here? It was funny. My wife, who does not watch a ton of football, but she does watch Georgia, and actually was like nervous during this game. And it was like, I'm mad at you for getting me invested in this now. But she was, she made the comment. She was like, Stetson, like, is kind of like a dad, like how he, like, he's always like fixing the offensive lineman's pads and like just making sure everybody's okay. And I thought that was kind of an interesting observation. But, when your run game, like Kirby made the comment of in the past when things have gone poorly on the road in the SEC, they've always been able to fall back on their run game. And they couldn't do that until the fourth quarter of this game. And I thought he carried the team, to carry the offense through that stretch, did enough to keep them in the game. And I thought the defense, just kind of figured it out. And there was that intensity. But this is one of those moments where, like, you kind of all look at each other and figure out what everybody's made of. And I do think that Georgia will find themselves in a tough game down the road where this matters.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I also think, I don't think folks realize I've been in these situations as a player a long time ago where when you're on the road at night and you're the better team and you're the better team, it gets real lonely. It can get real lonely when things aren't going right and that whole stadium is against you and and so having someone like Stetson Bennett who when guys aren't necessarily playing well or whatever, not letting it get lonely for those guys, for those individual contributors, where you have, the team coming together. And Kirby said it before the game in one of the highlights that I saw where he said, we're playing for, you're playing for a brother, we're playing for each other, like connection, all these things. But there's a difference between just saying that stuff and then having to live it. Like I used to have a coach who said it's the head knowledge versus the heart knowledge. It's like you can hear all that stuff in your head all the time, but until you got to like feel it in your heart and actually live it in the moment, that's where people really grow up. And so that I was really, I was happy that I wasn't happy the game went the way it went, but I was happy that at this point in the season, Georgia got to feel that transfer of like, we've been hearing all this stuff and now we got to really feel it. Do we really believe it? Can we really like tap into it? And they were able to do it. That's what you want, because I guarantee you, man, it's going to be, you look at some of these games, right? You think about Kentucky, you think about Mississippi State, like
Starkville at night is weird, man. It gets weird.
Yeah, it's weird. You're going to be in a situation where it's going to start getting lonely again. And now you have a proof point that you can look back and be like, yeah, we've been here before. We've done this before. This is not new to us. Yeah.
31 snaps for Missouri in the first half, 6 yards of play, 21 in the second half, under 5 of play, 23% success rate allowed in the second half. So that defense may have grown up at halftime.
Yeah, well, and I think like I guess the best way I would put it is just that I think that South Carolina went so easily for them that they didn't really come out like. I think there's guys that were like, well, I've played in an SEC road game before. I just did in Columbia. We beat their asses by 48 points. Like, I'm just going to, we're going to cruise up here. We're going to out-talent these dudes. We'll go up. we'll go up 17 in the first quarter, and these guys will lay down. And credit to Missouri, who had a good game plan and exploited Georgia in a lot of ways. But I think we had this whole conversation post Kent State about like Georgia needing adversity. Like this was some real adversity, and I kind of have a feeling that they are not going to come out and look, lackadaisical on Saturday against Auburn. I hope.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but
I'm going to say this, and I've said it a couple of times in the last week, and people may not like it, but Kent State was not adversity. You were in a situation where the second half you were up by 2 scores the entire second half, like that game. You had some tough situations that you were in, but Missouri
Georgia was never not winning that game.
No,
that
Missouri
game was never in doubt.
Yeah, when you're trailing in the fourth quarter on the road in the SEC at night, like that's real adversity. Especially when you're in a situation where you have those moments where like Georgia just had all day to sit there and think about it. And I think sometimes that for a young team, when you play those night games and you're on the road and like you're just sitting around the hotel and then the locker room and whatever, and you're just thinking about stuff. That can be very difficult. But I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see that versus Auburn this week. I'm excited for this game. And maybe Georgia, maybe this will be the game that Harsin gets run out of town on a rail. Maybe Georgia maybe Kirby will have another notch in his post of coaches that he has gotten canned. After
all right, we got to save that for later in the week. It is Auburn week. We like trucks. All right,
I don't care for Auburn. I don't know if you can tell. I don't care for Auburn.
Well,
all right. Anything else, Graham? Take us out because you got something else to say. I bet to wrap this up.
No, not really. Just saying. Well, we'll do some Auburn stuff. We're gonna put up a video that we did with George Foster earlier today for some more detailed explanations on zone versus gap. So keep your eye on that. It'll be on the Dawgs Central YouTube channel. And not subscribed to the Dawgs Central YouTube channel. Seriously, what are you doing? Come on, man.
Yeah, we drop.
Subscribe.
Yeah, and not everything goes. And not everything goes
$0 to hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, and not everything goes on the Twitter. So if you're watching on Twitter right now, just pound that subscribe on the YouTube and do all that sort of stuff. And for the record, we outlasted the Missouri film review by My God, a podcast today by 20 solid minutes.
First time ever. Go and check out the dawgcentral.com website. There's a ton of great stuff from Josh, lots of stats, lots of John insights and forums and boards, great recruiting intel from Jason, lots of content from all of us. It's the best deal on the internet, best $6.99 you ever spent.
And this is the part of the season where it's getting good. I'm not just saying that. This is where you're in the grind of the SEC schedule. You have the games that all of Georgia fans wait all year for are coming down the pike. And so hop on to Dawgs Central, subscribe, $6.99 a month. We're still running $33.18 for 6 months, which is $5.50. I mean, I literally spent more than that on a latte this morning, one drink that lasted me 17 minutes. And you can have 6 months of Georgia content.
Georgia may hang 60 in the national championship this year, and stuff's going to get more expensive. So get in there.
Yeah, it's true.
Hop on. All right, y'all.
Yeah,
all
before right. Georgia puts 49 on Bama and Atlanta, you better take advantage of that 33-18 special.
All right, guys. Good job, man. We'll see you later this week, guys.
See y'all.